Welcome to the Zen Brain Podcast, where we explore alternatives to psychiatric medication and strategies for conscious lifestyle change. Here's your host and philosophical entertainer, Michael Pierce. Michael Pierce.
Our body language, or the way we use different parts of our bodies in public, is a clear indicator of our mental state. Several experts have noted how we can read people's minds just by looking at their bodies. This is known as body language reading. Now, you can't be too obvious. Obviously, if you're staring at somebody's body, they're going to potentially label you as a creep, but there are those subtle signs that people give out all the time, and it only takes a split second to notice them. For example, you could just look at the way somebody moves their eyes when they're listening, or the way they hold their lips when they're talking. You could look at the stance of their arms and legs and the way they use their hands. These are vital body language signs. It doesn't take you any time to read these signs, but they can tell you a lot if you pay attention and if you know what to look for. And this podcast is all about body language, and it's an attempt to tell you about the various signs that people give out when they're reacting to you. So by listening to this podcast, you'll be able to gain command over what's in people's minds. Now, if you think about it, there are so many ways that it could be proven immensely beneficial to you. Think of all the things you could do if you could delve into somebody's mind. You'll be able to understand what they're thinking, how they'll react to you. If you're selling something, you'll be able to read what's in their mind and could give them just the right thing right before they voice their apprehensions. You could put people at ease, or if you're with a loved one, you could put their apprehensions to rest whenever they come up. Reading body language is a powerful tool of personal development itself. When you're able to keep everyone happy, people are going to consider you with great regard. The confidence that can instill in you is immense, and it could help you become a better person, and the kind of person that can be counted on. Now, I'm not saying that these methods of body language reading are infallible. There are always exceptions, and you'll have to use your better judgment on some occasions. Nevertheless, at the end of it all, there are signs that will work most of the time and most of your interactions with people. This is the way people normally behave, and you'll need to know how to weed out the exceptional reactions that might come your way. Speaking of personal development, when you know how to read the signs of body language in other people, you're automatically enhancing yourself as well. You know how body language is interpreted, and hence you can manipulate your own body language so that you give out the signals you want. Can that not be done? Well, of course it can. When you can read other people's body language, you can certainly improve your own body language as well. So, keep listening. This podcast is a powerful resource, and it will help immensely in improving your impressions in society, which is so much more important if you're a public figure. Moreover, it will help you to understand what's exactly going on in the minds of the people you're interacting with. This is a wonderful thing to learn. So let's get started. For people who are interested in learning how to read body language, certain skills are necessary. First, you need to be observant. Second, you need to be willing to put in the effort to learn. You got to understand that you're not going to be able to learn this without getting real life experience or training. And you're not going to master it overnight or even in a few days or weeks. It takes careful study and patience. That being said, reading body language isn't difficult, and one of the reasons is that it's been studied for an extremely long time, and a lot of the groundwork has been laid down to guide those who are truly interested in learning how to interpret nonverbal language. And another reason is that learning the skill is inherently fascinating and useful and fun. Now, all people want to know when someone is, lying to them, or what real thoughts lie beneath their poker face. The study of body language is also naturally engrossing for someone who is interested in just people in general and the dynamics of relationships. So here's some tips to read body language. Number one, note the facial features, especially the eyes. These are the windows to the soul, and they convey much of what a person is feeling inside. So if their eyes are dilated or they seem to be wide open, that means that the person is interested in the topic or in the person he's talking to. Or the dilated eyes could indicate focus or concentration. And in some cases, this could even mean that the person has been taking drugs and they're high. Number two, where the eyes are directed can also be significant. If they're looking at the side, the person may be feeling guilty or wanting to hide something. If the eyes are looking down, he may be feeling shameful or subservient. But these interpretations are not correct 100% of the time. It will take experience to learn how to correctly gauge what the eyes are saying. Here are a few facial gestures or movements and what they can mean. Rubbing the chin. That means the person is thinking or trying to decide something. Raising the eyebrows. That indicates a shock or a surprise. The greater the emotion, the higher the lifting of the eyebrows. Touching the eyebrows quickly. This can mean sort of a greeting or a sign to acknowledge someone who has just entered the room, or you start talking to that person. Also notice the general body position. If one's personal stance or position is similar to that of the person next to him, this can mean that they are both comfortable with one another and that they're hitting it off. This is called mimicking or imitating the other person's body position. Observe as well the distance or space between the two people. The closer they are, the more affectionate, warmth, or openness that there is between them. If they're far apart, they can be recent acquaintances who are not yet very interested in one another. If one person moves closer to the other, but the second person moves further away, this means he's turning away or refusing any further closeness. But if the second person moves closer too, he is reciprocating the first person's interest or advances. The hands, fingers, arms, legs, feet, and other body parts can express so many things that it will take a whole book to cover all the possible interpretations. Learn more by reading on the subject and observe people around you to become more skilled in interpreting body language. In both formal and casual communications, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the words that people say. However, the nonverbal communication is equally, or perhaps even more important. Body language says a lot, and many times what it says has a lot more impact than the words that are actually being spoken. For example, if somebody says that they're happy to welcome you into their home, but their arms are crossed over their chest and their body is in a rigid stance and they're not smiling, then an opposite message to their words are coming across, and the person they're speaking to will see and feel this and will react accordingly. Recognizing the power of nonverbal and body language, psychologists have long been studying a field of science called kinesics. This delves into body language as a significant factor in communication and in extension in human relationships. For example, for managers and leaders, understanding body language is very important. Nonverbal gestures and cues help them evaluate their employees and assess their reactions or their thoughts of people in the boardroom. From the job interview process up to the time when an employee resigns his job or gets fired, his body language is observed and listened to. Outside the work environment, nonverbal language is equally important. Every member of a family, parents and children, lovers, spouses, neighbors, friends, enemies, communicate through nonverbal means. And although silent, nonverbal messages are often loud, clear, and unmistakable. The teenager who storms out and bangs a door, the lover who exchanges tender looks, and the mother who is worried waits for a daughter to come home. These people do not have to say even one word to communicate their feelings. Therefore, the first basic principle of body language is this: body signals reveal true feelings and thoughts. Most people, under normal circumstances, are not consciously aware of their body language. As such, they don't often use body language to lie or cover up the truth. This means that compared to words, body language tends to be a more accurate reflection of what they're truly feeling or thinking. In cases when a person is saying something different from what his body language is saying, trust the nonverbal message more than the actual words. How to read body language correctly is a skill that is developed through experience, practice, and careful observation. Being observant is especially important to learn how to correctly interpret nonverbal body language. One should know that it is not just the facial expressions, the body stance, or the movements of the limbs that compromise body language. Here are a few elements of nonverbal communication to consider. The distance or space between the people communicating, or the proximity. The breathing or the respiration of the person and other signs if present or noticeable. Perspiration, blushing, pulse rate. The quality of their voice, like their pitch or the volume. Or how a person holds or touches certain things such as a pen, a cigarette, a bag, or their glasses. Being observant means noticing all of these things, in addition to facial expressions, of course, and the movements of the body. Through studying body language, one can further learn intricate varieties and details to these general expressions that convey different meanings.